Welcome back to part 2 of our Aging Smarter podcast. I'm your host, retired former circuit judge Jose Rodriguez. And we're now diving into a topic that affects millions of people around the world. That is the loss of memory and cognitive function as we age. As a recap of part 1 of our podcast, we established our longevity elephant in the room. The facts suggest that we are living longer, that we need to take care of our bodies with regular visits to our doctors. Part 2 of this Elephant in the Room podcast, we're going to examine some of the research and statistics on memory and cognitive loss due to aging. This is our memory elephant in the room. Using an elephant as an analogy is very appropriate because when talking about memory, the elephant has a very well-known reputation for having a formidable memory. Now, it's obvious that the largest animal on land, an elephant, should have the largest brain of all mammals on land. Well, guess what? They do. Just look at the elephant's sheer size. Their brains average 11 to 13 pounds, which statistically is approximately 4 times that of a human being. A human being usually weighs approximately about 3 pounds. Scientific studies have shown that despite the fact that elephants have 3 times as many neurons as we do, 257 billion to be relatively precise. However, they only have 1/3 of those neurons directly connecting to the cerebral cortex. That's where the highest and higher cognitive thinking takes place. So, despite the fact they have a bigger brain, that necessarily means they're not the smartest animals. Supposedly, we are. Nonetheless, elephants have incredible memories that can span years and decades. That has been proven out by research. Their big brains might just be why they have such incredible memories and such long-lasting memories. This remarkable memory obviously helps the elephant survive in challenging environments, as well as it also contributes to their social connections. So now let's talk about us, humans, and our memories. Understanding how our aging impacts our brain health is crucial, not just for the elderly, but for all of us, especially as we navigate the complexities of life. As we age, it is normal. It is normal. Let me repeat a third time. It is normal to experience some decline in cognitive abilities. However, conditions like cognitive impairment and dementia can significantly alter the quality of life for both individuals and their families. So, what do we do? What do we mean when we talk about cognitive impairment? And how is that different from the term dementia? Well, mild cognitive dementia or impairment, mild cognitive impairment is a classification given when someone is thought to be transitioning between normal aging and dementia. However, it is of the utmost importance to remember that not everyone who has mild cognitive impairment will go on to develop dementia. Now, what is dementia? Dementia means that the person may have significant cognitive difficulties beginning in adulthood and affecting the person's ability to perform everyday activities without assistance. That includes taking care of one's medical needs as well as caring for one's property. That is where guardianship comes in. The term dementia has also been used as a generic umbrella term to describe a large range of neurological conditions that cause a decline in cognitive function, and that as they develop, they may be severe, and they may be severe enough to interfere with daily life. Symptoms can include something as simple as memory loss, difficulty communicating, and impaired reasoning. While it's important to note that not all memory loss is due to dementia, significant cognitive decline can be a precursor to various forms of dementia. In a study conducted by Columbia University researchers, they found that close to 10% of all adults age 65 or older have some form of dementia. Looking at the positive side of the research, that means that 90% of the population at that age, the great majority of older Americans, do not have some form of dementia. The study also found that 22% of those over age 65 have some form of mild cognitive impairment. And remember, significant cognitive decline can be the precursor to various forms of dementia, as I previously mentioned. But mild cognitive impairment may not be something that would be it would completely impair someone from being able to carry out daily functions. Now, while dementia and cognitive impairment are generally causally related to age, men and women had similar rates of dementia according to the study. But the study group found something really interesting, that people with mild cognitive impairment and dementia tended to be older, have lower education levels, and be Black or Hispanic. The Columbia University study surprisingly also found that only 35% of people in their 90s, let me repeat that, 35%, only 35% of people in their 90s had some form of dementia. These results were based on data gathered nationally from a cohort or sample of almost 3,500 individuals. Now, to better understand the mechanics behind memory loss and cognitive decline, we can look at some additional significant studies. One notable research published by the National Institute of Health in 2020 confirmed that those with mild cognitive impairment are at higher risk of developing Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Remember, we defined mild cognitive impairment as a condition in which people have a memory or other thinking problems other than people their age. The symptoms of mild cognitive impairment may not be as severe as those from Alzheimer's disease or other related dementias. Some people with mild cognitive impairment can usually take care of themselves and carry out their normal daily activities. So just because somebody has mild cognitive impairment does not mean that they're not able to carry out their normal daily activities. Mild cognitive impairment does not mean incapacity in the legal sense or the inability to manage that impairment in the guardianship sense. Consider also that it is important that in many cases, the symptoms of cognitive loss may stay the same or might even improve. Yes, believe it or not, might even improve. How? Well, that's why it's important to see a doctor or a specialist, a gerontologist or geriatrician, regularly to monitor changes in memory and thinking over time. So, what factors will determine your risk of developing cognitive impairment or even Alzheimer's? Well, genetics, of course. So, do you have someone in your family that may have developed the same or similar condition? Some of these precursor conditions lead to cognitive loss and dementia, include, believe it or not, diabetes, depression, strokes. Any or all of these symptoms may affect a person's risk for episodes of dementia and are factors affecting our brain health. Let me repeat that there are some instances where memory and thinking problems may be caused by conditions that are treatable. For example, a bad reaction to medication, emotional problems, dehydration, UTIs, urinary tract infections, drinking too much alcohol, blood clots, tumors in the brain, and head injuries can all cause serious memory problems and episodes that resemble and reflect symptoms of dementia, but can be resolved with treatment. While there are many potential causes of dementia episodes, the key significant factor for dementia, along with genetics, is guess what? Age. Age was the most significant risk factor the research has shown. And as we get older, the brain undergoes various changes, including a reduction in the size of certain areas and a decline in the production of neurotransmitters. These are essential for memory and for learning. That's why it's important to have regular checkups and focus on maintaining physical as well as brain health. So, what can we do to maintain health as we age? The research suggests that lifestyle choices play a significant role in brain health. Engaging in regular physical activity, maintaining a healthy diet, learning something new, Remember, learning, education, learning a new language, learning to play the piano, learning to play the accordion, playing the accordion if you had learned as a youth, staying socially active. All of that can contribute to cognitive resilience. Walking your dog on a regular basis because it requires you to do exercise. It requires you to meet the people in your neighborhood. You maintain social activity. And every now and again when Fido makes a deposit, you have to do squats because that would be the neighborly thing to do. You don't leave any of the deposits that Fido leaves behind. So again, it's a full gamut of activity that you get when you're walking your dog. Again, lifestyle changes. Remember, we spoke earlier that in this podcast that there are a variety of body parts, 7 to be exact, that should be checked regularly after reaching the youthful age of 50. Yes, youthful age of 50. So, as we wrap up part 2 of this Aging Smarter podcast, the memory elephant in the room, it is crucial, absolutely crucial, to remember that while aging is a natural process, not all cognitive decline is inevitable. The more we understand about the brain and the factors that influence cognitive health, the better equipped we are to take proactive steps in our life to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. In the event we suffer partial or total loss of our cognitive abilities, there are documents that we can draft to leave instructions about what we want someone to do for us. Those decisions that should be taken regarding our assets and our physical and mental health, we can leave those instructions. Naturally, these will be documents that should be reviewed by an attorney who is familiar with your particular factual circumstances and who is familiar with the pertinent area of law. To recap, part 1 of our Aging Smarter podcast, we established how our population is fast increasing in age, we're living longer, and that was the longevity elephant in the room. This part 2 of our Aging Smarter podcast, we have just established how mild cognitive loss and dementia may increase with age. This is the memory elephant in the room. Shortly, we will return to part 3 of our Aging Smarter podcast, during which we will take up the prepared and protective elephant in the room. Our discussion will center on the highlight of just some of the methods that are available to leave instructions in the event that our longevity intersects with our cognitive loss. In other words, we are alive but unable to express our wishes. We hope to familiarize you with some of those documents to help you think about what questions to ask your lawyer and what are the best alternatives in your case. We hope you will find this discussion informative and empowering. If you or someone you know is experiencing cognitive decline, don't hesitate to reach out to a healthcare professional for guidance on health issues and an attorney to protect your property, your assets, or the property and assets of one you love. So don't go away. We'll be right back. We'll be right back to talk about the third part of our podcast, the prepared and protective elephant in the room.